Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays a Binding of Isaac Afterbirth plus 20 wins in a row. It's very exciting. Can't be mad about that, nor playing as Samson, who is a character with a lot of possible leads on a victory. Lumpka ahead. Take a lumpka ahead. Dum dum ticka ticka dum ticka ticka dum ticka dum. You know, that's it's a song by Boston. I'm trying to think of I think it's I believe it's Peace of Mind. Sorry, I went silent there. I had to figure it out in my head. Otherwise, it would have bugged me for the rest of my days. Look, we're at the end of the day here. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say you should step on it, but yeah, definitely step on it, because if you don't, you can't leave. Don't forget, you're here forever. It's the end of the day. It's like 8 p.m. I do believe that I operate in a different time zone than the average person my age. People think I am, and this is why sometimes, I will admit I do get genuinely frustrated is maybe too severe of a word, but I get, rankled is probably the perfect amount of severity when other streamers call me a boomer or like Mr. Responsible, which is, you know, I try, and it is a compliment, but it's kind of steeped in condescension. They're always like, oh yeah, I bet you, when you were in high school, I bet you ran home as soon as possible to get your homework done, because you're always, hey man, I'm waking up 9:30 a.m. I'm going to bed 12:31, 1:30 a.m. Those are not, the average 31-year-old is going to bed at like maybe 11 or 12, I would imagine. And waking up at like 6:45, 7:30. I've still got a little streak of that, you know, rebellious independence. So I do believe I operate on a different time zone than the average individual. What I mean by that, maybe not the average streamer. What I mean by that is not that I'm in Pacific time, but for me, the way I feel at 8 p.m. is probably not as the way that you feel at 8 p.m. My 8 p.m. is not really the peak of my day, but it's the very beginning of the downslope of energy. You know what I mean by that? Like, if I had to say, like, what's the peak of my day from, like, an energy, mood, productivity, like, enjoyment, when do I feel the best? If you ask me, like, hey, what time do you want to, like, get together tomorrow? And you want me to be, you know, in a good place? I would say, like, my 4 to 5 p.m. tends to be my peak. After that, especially around 5, depending on, you know, how I've eaten for the day, can sometimes get a little, you know, peckish. Oh, careful. Low blood sugar to some extent, you know, it can affect you slightly, but that's my ideal time. Sorry, I just had to make sure. I guess we could have just stepped on the thing first. That would have also worked. Dude, this could be a huge momentum gainer for us early on here. What am I talking about? Well, just in general, we already got synth oil for free. Well, for a few red hearts. We can play our blood bank pretty prodigiously. If we could get a blood bag and then, like, follow that up with an IV bag, this is almost over already. So don't do the deal with the devil first. That's like a classic me mistake. I would... Oh, that was dumb. Because there's no way the secret room is going to be there. And it actually, now that I think about it, it might be there. But it's possible that the black hole can't open the secret room, even though it, you know, looks like it destroys things. I think we got a couple different paths to take in advance. So I think step 1 for sure, is get into boss rush capabilities. Boss trap room, I should say. So that's where we want to be there. Don't get too greedy, because we're already in an awesome spot. Just don't throw the whole run away just to try to get a little extra value. This is exactly what we wanted, though. We can use this key, and it's all starting to unravel. You use the key to get to the shop, where you should be able to buy a key. If you can't buy a key, it's kind of, that's the price of doing business, but I would rather go to the shop than the item room with 25 cents and 1 key. And at the very tippy top of the mountain here is the deal with the devil. The deal with the devil changes everything. But we can't do it just yet. So if we play this floor completely appropriately, we might be coasting for the rest of this. Personally, I think you take PhD. I know there's no key for sale right now. And then I think you fish for a key. PhD gave us the HP required to get more out of this. And to be honest, I don't think you get the key. I think you get ready to buy mom's key. And again, you know, nobody is necessarily an enormous fan of the walking back and forth room to room. But when you find that line, it feels good. We don't need perks here. Now, again, blood bag into IV bag is the dream scenario. Perhaps one day. I'll take the luck upgrade. So again, you don't want to go too low, but we could play the shop quite a lot. We're still quite early on in this run. I don't know why I put on this voice. My normal cadence is starting to fall apart as the day goes on, I suppose. We got to put on funny voices just to preserve. Not that this voice is inherently funny, but it's funny not because of the sound it makes, but because it's different than the sound I normally make. Okay, well, with PhD, no? Yes. Ooh, you do not hate to see it. I will tell you that. Okay, work with me. Red hearts, please. Red hearts, indeed. We don't really want any of those. We do want that. Okay, where are we going next? This may be a time where it's appropriate to handle this boss fight situation and see what's up. I didn't even mention it, but like Ipecac is obviously insanely great. Should not necessarily bear repeating. I'm sure you're probably aware in advance. So all of my conversations about making sure that we get a lot of momentum on this floor, in the end, we didn't have to work as hard as we actually ended up working, to be honest. And in fact, now I'm looking at this and I'm like, just take Abaddon and run, dude. We don't need blood bag. We don't need IV bag. We have Succubus and Incubus, or sorry, Succubus and Ipecac on the same floor. So our damage by default is, it's like 42 maybe, because it's been going up here. There we go. But inside of Succubus is like close to 80. This will kill just about everything in a single push. I will say, Ipecac lead pencil is a very interesting kind of setup you got there. I mean, what can I say? There's really literally nothing to complain about, because Succubus with our incredible damage stat will also destroy enemies like immediately. We didn't even have to use that there. This is set in stone, more or less. So let's not get too cocky, because you know things can go wrong, but they're probably not gonna go wrong on this. This is one of the most powerful runs I've ever seen. This early. Because, I mean, come on. We've had Ipecac on other runs. But to get all that stuff so quick is really good. It's rare for me to have an Isaac episode, you know, late in the day. Probably like, maybe like less than one a week is recorded late in the day. It tends to be my morning stuff. Because I talked about, you know, earlier, I tend to do the easiest task in the morning. But today, I finished all my stuff, and I was like, you know, I still got some time. So why, you know, why not dedicate that a little bit to Isaac? So what are my plans for tonight? It's a great question. I have no idea. If there's one... Oh, I could have used the stopwatch. You know, this will be fun if we can actually make it work, though. If there's one thing I'm still working on as an adult, and I mean, there's many things, I suppose, but I still have not learned how to do well with my free time. I don't do badly with it, but I never, like, have a plan. You know, that's not totally true. Like, I learn programming and, you know, I go to the gym, but the gym is not really free time. It's kind of like, it's leisure and optional, but it's structured. Structure and free are at odds with one another. And the problem for me, and I mean, it's not really a problem. I'm quite comfortable like this, to be honest, but the issue that makes it tough to plan for is, you know, I have a very variable schedule. I'm always free on Saturdays, and I prefer to have nothing set in stone on those days, like weekly, to suck it up, because then it stops feeling like a day off. But every other night, some nights I have an hour of free time, some nights I have 4 hours of free time. And I never know what night is what until I'm approaching it. Like, I can already tell this is a 4-hour night, and that's great. But I always... It's weird to say, I don't think we want any of those, but if free time stresses me out a little bit, in a very minor and okay way, because I always wonder, like, is this the best use of my free time? By the way, a lot of temptation, I think. Any day, and this is a fairly recent phenomenon. Anytime I say something like that on Twitch, there's like 25 comments in chat that go, Latestage Capitalism. It's not really like, I don't feel like, oh, I should really be working right now. I'm not saying there's not examples of late-stage capitalism in society on a daily basis. This is not one of them, in my opinion. And I'm going to make you stay honest, because I think your principles get stronger if you have to, you know, make sure that you're using them in valid situations. What it really is like, sometimes I have free time, and let's say I have like 3 hours. I don't know what to do with it, because I have a real fear of squandering it, if that makes sense. So sometimes, like, I'll play a little Forza. I'm almost like... We will take, for sure. Well, actually, this is not a for sure, but I still did take, and then ruined that, unfortunately. I'm almost guilty of, like, over-auditing my free time, if that makes sense. Like, I've told this story before, but I used to play a lot of Dota. More Dota than is good to play. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have a healthy life and play League of Legends, Dota, whatever. Any video game. It doesn't have to be a MOBA. MOBAs, I think, just tend to be the most common examples, along with, like, MMOs, of being kind of addicted. Compelled, maybe, is a word that you would feel more comfortable with. But for me, I was reaching the point where, like, I was playing Dota, you know, like 3 to 4 hours a day. I was getting my work done, but, you know, that's a huge time sink. And then if you enjoy it, that's fine. Like, if you're passionate about, you know, volunteering at a homeless shelter, and you do it for 30 hours a week, that's great. If you're passionate about making crocheted socks and you do it 30 hours a week, that's great. But I was not really passionate about Dota. Like, one day I just thought to myself, am I actually having fun playing this game? And the short answer was no. The long answer is some games are fun, some aren't. But I kind of almost like made a deal with myself, or like I had to bargain with myself, and I was like, is it a sensible use of your life, not just your time, but your life, to dedicate so much time to something where 50% of it is not even enjoyable? And, like, the part that's not enjoyable is, like, really, like, not enjoyable. If you're going to be frustrated, you might as well be doing something that actually helps your life. Instead, and that, I think, is a really good attitude to have, but also leads me to these situations, which is, again, this is not like a major problem in my life. I'm just spitballing here, but, you know, I'll play Forza, and I'll play like one game, and I'll be like, that was fun. And I'll play another game and like lose in a bad way, and be like, that's not fun. I don't think I want to play any more Forza right now. It's not even like a rage quit. It's more just like, you know, time is a very valuable resource. Why use it on something that is not actually enjoyment? I don't mind spending my free time on enjoyment. But if I'm going to be spending it on enjoyment, I want to make sure I actually enjoy it. It's like, you know, if you work at a job where you have to take sick days or vacation days, you don't want to take a vacation day and then just like, you know, do something you don't want to do. I mean, it's different if you have to do it, you know, if you have to run errands or something. You get what I mean? I'm not trying to create a logical extreme. But, you know, when you have a limited amount of that resource, you want to make sure it's used wisely. So that's kind of what happens to me. Is like, you know, I'll like spend 5 minutes looking for something to watch on Netflix. I'll watch 15 minutes of it and be like, this kind of sucks. And then I'll close it, and then I'll look for something else on Netflix and be like, this kind of sucks. But I'm still also, I can't believe we walked on the spikes twice, by the way, but I'm still also like trying to puzzle out in my own head whether I think this is actually a problem or not. Because I think in some ways it's not a problem to have that kind of respect for your free time. I'm not really looking for a hobby. That's the thing. Is because like a hobby, again, let's just go here. Not worth it, but that's okay. A hobby is like, it's not bad to be clear. I love when I have hobbies. To be excited about you know, like a recreational thing in your life is awesome. But right now I'm like, it's, you know, I got a variable amount of time on different days. Hard to dedicate myself to something in that regard. Plus, I like, to be honest, my life's kind of like, it's relatively full right now. What you're basically listening to is a grown man complaining about, like, I can't find a good TV show or video game to play now and then. I'm just saying, why can't entertainment products be pure dopamine at all times? Like, to be honest, people think that I'm joking about this when I say this. I'm very much not joking about it. This is why I don't play competitive video games anymore. When I was young, when I was, you know, let's say between the ages of like 13 and 20, I loved playing online multiplayer games. And if I hated 25% of the time that I spent on them, big whoop. I had nothing but time. Now I'm busier. I got, you know, other responsibilities. If something in my home life, like on an entertainment standpoint, is only entertaining me 75% of the time, I'm like, this is unacceptable. It's gotta be yeeted as soon as possible. It's a weird philosophy shift. Let's just call it like that. Okay, well, we're done with that room then. I don't know, maybe it's relatable, maybe it's not. It's the classic thing, you know, when you're and this is slightly different, but, you know, when you're a kid, you're like, when I'm an adult, I'm gonna have disposable income, I can buy video games. And when you're an adult, if you have some disposable income, you're like, when I was a kid, I had so much time to play games. And to be honest, that's part of, I don't think I worked too much. I think there were years where I did, for sure. But now, like, ever since I started taking a structured day off, it's probably like the best change in my life in like the last 3 or 4 years. I was working 7-day weeks for like a long time, but like, to be honest, I was getting the same amount done. I'm not trying to brag about working too much. I was just working very inefficiently. I would basically work 7 days, and each day was like 5/7 as much work as it is now. Now I just work smarter on a daily basis, and I actually get to have a day off, which leads me to not necessarily be on the internet that entire day, which makes my mental state 10 times better. So like, that's a really positive change. But I don't think I work too much. But one of the reasons I work as much as I do is because, like, You know, there's no reason I have to record this Isaac episode right now. There's no crunch. You know, the boss isn't going, hey, if you don't get this Isaac episode done by 9, we're not gonna have anything to put up tomorrow. But I'm like, well, I can't just stop working after like 7 hours. What the heck am I gonna do? Go play Forza, where 63% of the time I'm having a good time and 37% of the time I'm modestly annoyed that I got eliminated? Go play a single-player RPG where 29% of the time I'm thrilled and the rest of the time I'm mashing A through the dialogue? Go watch a Netflix original where, you know, that's why I was so into The Expanse. And sometimes when I get into a show, I can suck it up pretty quick. I watched all of Better Call Saul. Not in like, I don't like to binge watch, but I would watch like 1 to 2 episodes a day for 2 months and, you know, knock that series out in no time. Although I am still a season behind. There's only 2 modes of internet video consumption for me right now. I either watch a show, like it enough that I watch the whole thing, or I watch 10 minutes of it and go, this is absolutely garbage, and never touch it again. To be fair, that probably describes most online shows. I call them online shows now, apparently, even though they're just shows. You know, you get a feel for it when you turn on your TV. You're like, if you turn on your TV. You're like, look, this show right here, History Channel, I'm gonna tell you, I will never watch an episode of Nazi megastructures. You can keep playing 10 of them a day, I will never watch. The title of the show just does not appeal to me. I'm very interested in history, and I am fascinated by the Second World War, because it's crazy to me that it's this like Infinity War style massive event, and it took place like in my grandfather's lifespan. Like, that is insane to me. On the other hand, the word megastructure is like so let's do it, it'll be weird. The word megastructure is so cursed as to remove any interest I might have had, because I just don't buy the fundamental premise of the show, I guess. How many Nazi megastructures could there possibly be? To be fair, what you're listening to right now is a grown man very ignorantly criticizing a show he's never seen that might actually be amazing. I am guessing it's not, because I've never heard anybody but me mention the fact that it exists. Another one is Ancient Aliens. I watched like 1 episode of Ancient Aliens thinking it would be a funny joke, and just left befuddled that the show had even meme popularity, because it's just kind of boring. For a show about aliens influencing human civilization, which, just to be clear, if you believe that, cool. If you don't believe that, me neither. That being said, Tom DeLong, if you're watching, I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to brainwash people, okay? I remain unconvinced. You gotta go to youtube.com/MathisGames if you want to meet a true believer. But for a show about aliens visiting Earth, it's just immensely boring. Yeah, so we believe that the Astro Sapiens came down sometime. You got the only thing noteworthy about that show is already known. The guy's got a funky haircut. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. I'm gonna go figure out what to do. If you enjoyed it, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Subscribe. We're making moves in 2020, and I appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. See ya!